The real estate sector has always been one of the fastest growing in the country, of course, supporting economic growth for the longest time. But in the last 3 years, I mean, the sector has gone through a rough patch. But things got out of hand in the year 2020 because of COVID-19, when demand for units went to the lowest levels in more than 15 years. How do you survive in that kind of an industry? And of course, we have seen a situation whereby a lot of players have now opted to reinvent the wheel and, of course, reinvent the operations. This morning, we want to discuss the question of real estate and the status of real estate in Kenya. And joining us is Winfred Wanjama Warui. She's a director of Storehomes Holding Company, and she's going to help us with these issues. Thank you very much, Wanjama, for joining us this morning. First of all, paint for us the situation on the ground in terms of in the real estate industry.
So, as you correctly and rightly put it, what has happened is that the demand for housing units is high, but the ability to purchase has greatly gone down. This has been caused, of course, by the financial situation where we find buyers do not have the money to buy, and if they have the deposits to buy, they do not have financiers who are readily giving them the finance that they need. So it's a complex situation where we have there are people who are willing to buy, but they are not able to buy, and of course there are also the ones who especially last year, who were afraid to use the little money they have to purchase a capital item in times of a very uncertain period.
And you have a situation whereby when you look at the housing price index, by the Kenya Bankers Association, you have a situation whereby there is a huge glut in the real estate, whereby you have oversupply of units in the market, and especially on the middle higher level to higher level, and the demand is a little bit suppressed. Of course, one can say that because of the current economic and financial conditions of Kenyans. So how are you managing to hang on there?
It's been very difficult for the last 2 years, as we have mentioned, and I would not say that there is a glut. I think the issue right now is that there's no purchasing power, and that's the simplest explanation to what is happening. Where we would say that there is a glut is where we have, especially in the Kimani, in the urban setup, and especially within certain areas, there have been foreign, we've gotten a lot of foreign investors in those areas, and that has ramped up the number of houses in the market. But I wouldn't say that there is a glut. I would just say that the purchasing power has really reduced.
I mean, you see, when you say the purchasing power has gone down, it means that realtors are not selling as many units as they have always done.
Yes.
But on the other hand, you still have a lot of projects that were in the pipeline being completed, and so this is piling up pressure and, of course, piling more units into the market, and this is how the glut is coming about. And you've rightly put it. I mean, when you drive around or when you walk around the areas around Kimani, Runda, Lavington, Nairobi West, and all these estates, I mean, you see a lot of letting, for sale, and so much. And when you look at what you call the malls in this country, the occupancy rate has also been very, very low, 60–40%.
Yes.
How do we get out of this situation?
I think there are various issues that you've raised. Number one, there's the issue of commercial real estate, and there's other side of it, of the residential. So the commercial side of real estate, I think, has taken the biggest hit, and That has been because a lot of people have been working from home, and there is a concerted effort by many companies to continue in that trend. And it's very unfortunate that some of the bigger firms have decided moving forward that they are not going to be letting commercial properties. So there is a huge problem in terms of space. So there's a lot of commercial space available at the moment because of COVID. In terms of the malls, those have been affected by, of course, a lot of people are doing more mobile purchases. So there's going to be a time when it's going to not be necessary to go to the malls and all. So I think there's going to be a rethinking in the way that malls are marketed, and how they're utilized by the tenants. So it was previously quite expensive for some of the tenants in some of these malls, but we've seen a huge trend towards people moving away from that and moving on to a lot of internet purchases. So that's going to be a problem for developers who own commercial properties.
But the saving grace is the fact that, I mean, when you go to the US, or when you go to UK, Germany, and so much, I mean, you find huge shopping complexes, huge malls, and more so in the United States, where the malling culture is very well advanced. You go to huge malls and you find they are completely empty. But we have seen a situation whereby they are becoming logistic hubs.
Yes.
For large players like Walmart.
Yes.
They occupy a lot of space at, let's say, like the Mall of America, for example. And are we also likely to see a situation like this in Kenya, whereby, I mean, malls are not going to close down, but what they are going to do is they're going to attract logistic players as major tenants?
But that has been the case even in Kenya. I think it's, the malls, the way they are structured is also dependent on the culture that they are found within. So, for example, in the States, you still find a lot of people going to box office, to the theater. So it's a cultural thing, and that is where I'm saying people need to now start realigning themselves with, especially developers, in the way that they sell their space, because it's more of a cultural thing where you have, say, for example, in urban setups, you find a lot of teenagers and the youth. There are certain places that they want to be seen. And obviously, most of these people want to be seen in malls. So you'll find, of course, people be having, influencers in the malls and, things like that. That is what is going to be the future of some of these places. So a lot of marketing to make sure that they're seen to be what is relevant for the cultural setup and social setup. So,
I mean, we have to go through what you would call a cultural revolution. I mean, in order for us to change the way we approach mall business, and of course, you are a commercial lawyer and a conveyancing lawyer, expert in this field.
Yes.
But before I ask you the next question, first of all, let's go to Afya House, where Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe is about to hold discussions with his Tanzanian counterparts. Let's go to Afya House and get to understand more.